What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Heikesh. So just recently, I watched WWE Unreal Season 2. I watched the first season when it came out way back when, and I watched the second season just yesterday or 2 days ago, depending on when this video comes out. I kind of just want to talk about my feelings, talk about my thoughts about WWE Unreal, because there's a lot to unpack from watching this. Before we jump into my thoughts, please go follow my TikTok over here, all right? I post my reactions and other fun content that I can't post in long form format over there. So go follow that as well. And also be sure to leave a comment on this video telling me your thoughts about WWE Unreal. I really want to hear about them, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and if you never watched it, why you didn't watch it either. It helps me connect with the greater wrestling community online, so please do leave a comment. Not only does it help the video, but it helps me out a lot. And if you haven't seen Unreal Season 2 already, spoiler warning, please go watch it and then come back and watch this. With that being said, let's jump into it. First, I want to talk about my overall thoughts about WWE Unreal. Now, ever since it came out, there's been a lot of online discourse about how they refuse to watch it because it's just another WWE propaganda product. They're just going to feed you the stuff they want to feed you. They're going to tell you what you want to hear, and you're going to get nothing out of it. I heard someone say it's a fake show that's trying to pretend to be real, which is, to be honest, that's just a thing for wrestling. So but I'm not going to lie. If you're one of those people who turned it off because you thought it was just going to be a propaganda piece, something that they released to show that, hey, Triple H is the greatest booker of all time, I advise you to actually give it a try, because maybe you won't get a lot from the whole Triple H and the writing of the show and all that. You're not going to get much from that, I'll be real. But it is really nice to hear the wrestlers' interviews, you know, how they prepare going into matches and storylines, all the behind the scenes stuff that it takes to be an actual performer in a wrestling ring. That part of the whole documentary is actually pretty insightful. It's actually really compelling to watch. I could care less about the stuff that they tell me about how Triple H and how they book it, and, you know, all the stuff that he has to keep track of and what he's booking and the reasons behind what he's booking, why he's booking it, etc., etc. I could care less about that. Is it cool to see how some of the decisions are made in the company? Yeah, but at the end of the day, the writing room is the most sacred room for the company. So they're not just gonna tell you everything that happens on there. They're gonna pick and choose the things that make them look good from the writing room that they're gonna show you. But the things that I did like from this series is hearing from people like Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria, especially Lyra Valkyria, Chelsea Green, Penta, Naomi, R-Truth, all the wrestlers that had interviews talked about their thought process, their mentality, why they do X, Y, and Z, what they do before a match, what they do during the match, what they do after the match. Stuff like that was really compelling to watch. It was really insightful, and it kind of made me just have more of an appreciation for the people that wrestle. We're going to dive deeper into each person's, you know, their role, but man, just overall hearing from them, their mentalities and stuff like that, I really enjoyed that a lot. And I think that, in essence, is the best part of a WWE Unreal. It's not the writing part or how they come up with storylines or what they do to make storylines do X, Y, and Z. It's the wrestlers and how they prepare and what goes on in their minds, you know. I guess we can just hop into the episodes. So let's start off with, in my opinion, what the coolest one to watch was the whole Becky and Lyra, their feud, how they got set up, the stuff that went into that. When I tell you that by the end of the show, I felt so bad for Lyra Valkyria. Throughout season 2, they were talking about how Lyra looked up to Becky. You know, she was one of her inspirations for getting into wrestling. And then she got the chance to tag with Becky, and then afterwards have this whole storyline with her about how Becky turned heel, basically elevating Lyra in the process. But then it all culminated at their match at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship, and the match kind of fell flat. The quality really dipped, and Lyra explained that it was all her fault because she had so much pressure on her shoulders and she was thinking about everything that needs to go right and all that stuff, that when she walked out of the curtain, she was not present in the moment. Usually her thing is stepping out and being in the moment, soaking up the energy from the crowd, and then using that to fuel her match and make the match amazing. But at SummerSlam, when she came out, all she could think about was getting to the ring to start the match. When the match started, she was thinking about, okay, I need to get to here, I need to get to here, I need to get to this spot, etc. They showed the point in the match where she was in the zip ties and then she got free from the zip ties, but that wasn't the plan, and she's thinking, you know, oh, it's gonna ruin later in the spot, and probably no one saw it, so she slipped her hand back in the zip tie. It just looked really awkward, and you saw the backstage reaction of Triple H, of the producers, to her doing that. Even you saw the reaction from Seth when she did that. So yeah, the match fell flat in quality wise. It went over in time, according to the producer, and she shouldered all that blame. She blamed herself for doing that. She just went through like this whole mental battle, was in this mental turmoil about how the match ended up, how it was supposed to be, and how she felt really bad, how she in her mind was disappointing Becky and disappointing the bosses and Triple H and all them. And I thought that was the coolest part. Not that she was in a bad mood or she was blaming herself and she was breaking down crying. It shows the pressure that wrestlers put on themselves to perform every single night when they're wrestling. And especially those big matches, those big blow-off feuds, the rubber matches, the WrestleMania matches, SummerSlam matches, Royal Rumble matches, all that stuff. And that definitely gave me more of an appreciation as well for what the wrestlers do for us to entertain the fans, us watching at home, the people in the arena. And at the end of the day, you can't knock a wrestler for wanting to perform their best. Another big storyline that actually covered just an entire episode was the whole R-Truth scenario that happened around Money in the Bank. R-Truth had his match with John Cena, and then he reportedly got released, and then he came back at Money in the Bank to everyone's shock. It showed the love that everyone had for R-Truth backstage, all the rest of the wrestlers, the producers, all of them. And again, I liked how it showed the locker room could love each other and be united for each other. It was one of the smaller plot points in WWE Unreal, but I thought it was really cool seeing how the whole thing happened, and according to Triple H, how the whole thing was just a miscommunication in a contract negotiation. But I think Triple H just dropped the ball with R-Truth. And like seeing the backstage reaction of all the wrestlers who didn't know that it was R-Truth returning, that was really beautiful to watch. It really showed how beloved R-Truth is, not just to the fans, to us who love his hilarious character, but how people backstage love the nice, genuine guy that R-Truth is. So yeah, that was kind of a mini storyline this season, but it was very compelling to watch. I'm gonna be saying that a lot. Very compelling to watch. I need to expand my vocabulary. Another small thing before we get into another big storyline of Unreal, Penta. How they interviewed Penta and seeing Penta talk about how much it meant for him to connect with the fans. It really showed the love that Penta had for the business and for the fans, really, and how much he wanted to give back to his community in Mexico, being a Mexican wrestler, someone of Hispanic descent. He has a real love for lucha libre, and it shows through the camera, through the ring, and all that stuff. It even showed the reaction of higher ups and how they reacted to Penta connecting with the fans. You know, all the little kids doing the Zero Miedo hand signs and everyone doing the Zero Miedo chants during Money in the Bank. It was really cool to see Penta's mentality and what he wants to do with the fans, like how he wants to connect with the fans, and then it being successful and his reaction to that after the Money in the Bank ladder match. It was beautiful to watch. Now, another big storyline this season that spanned across multiple episodes focused on Naomi. I mainly talked about Naomi's heel turn, her winning Money in the Bank, and then cashing in and being the champion. They also touched on when Naomi walked out with Sasha Banks in 2022 and then came back at the Royal Rumble, stuff like that, just to kind of set up things that were coming up. And that was really cool to see how everyone reacted to Naomi, someone who's been a tenured vet. Seeing a vet of the game, right, especially in the women's locker room, and the reaction to her winning Money in the Bank and getting the praise that she deserves. And that ultimately culminating in her doing the surprise cash in at Evolution on what was, in my opinion, the match of the year, Rhea versus Io at Evolution 2025. And just how the fans reacted, how everyone backstage was crying, tears of joy, everyone was jumping up and down with excitement when she won the championship. And not even just Naomi, but just overall, that whole episode about Evolution they talked about was amazing. Like seeing the pride that the women wrestlers had in putting on a show like Evolution was really, really inspiring to watch. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of what I'm saying is kind of rinse and repeat, talking about all the backstage reaction and stuff like that, but I think that's the best part about WWE Unreal, is just seeing the camaraderie of the wrestlers backstage more than seeing how the higher ups make decisions. I don't think that's the whole point of Unreal. The whole point is to help you connect with the characters you see weekly on a deeper level. Actually, another one that's probably up there with my favorite storyline, Jelly Roll's whole thing. I think that's like tied for first place, the best thing that they were talking about in Unreal. Jelly Roll's whole mentality and journey to his SummerSlam match was really, really fun to watch. Not only fun, it was super, super inspiring. Seeing how Jelly Roll kind of wanted to turn his life around because of an incident that happened at SummerSlam the year prior, where he was struggling to get up off the ropes, and how that led to this amazing weight loss journey to a year later getting to compete in a wrestling ring on a big stage like SummerSlam. It was also really cool to see how the wrestlers reacted to that opportunity versus the online fandom of that opportunity. Take your mind back to SummerSlam, right? So many people were talking about how it's a waste of having main eventers like Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre to get involved in a celebrity match. How it should have just been Jelly Roll versus Logan, or they could have used some other people to fill those spots and had those two be, in main event spots for the SummerSlam show. But then you see the reaction that Randy had, what he told Triple H, saying, "Thank you for the opportunity of giving me a chance to elevate a celebrity." And it goes to show that no matter what the fans think, the wrestlers can think differently. Like, I remember seeing videos of people being like, it's disrespectful to Randy Orton that he has to wrestle with a celebrity and whatnot. And here's Randy Orton backstage saying, thank you for this opportunity. Like, I'm really grateful for it. So I thought that was a really cool, like, thing to see, like how wrestlers react versus how fans react to the same match. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was really inspiring to see Jelly Roll get to the point that he's at in his weight loss journey and get to wrestle at SummerSlam, and how he has such respect for the business. They said it in the show that people sometimes don't respect WWE. Celebrities that come in just want their 5 minutes of fame and then leave and benefit from it. Jelly Roll actually has that genuine respect for the business and the wrestlers, and so he wanted to lose that day. But yeah, shout out Jelly Roll. The weight loss that you had was amazing. I hope we can get Jelly Roll back in a ring for another match soon, because he is genuinely entertaining to watch. I had a lot of fun watching that match. Now, lastly, let's talk about arguably the biggest thing that people are watching season 2 of Unreal for, and that's the whole Seth Rollins fake injury. How was it set up? Was it a work? Was it initially a shoot and then turned into a work, etc.? Now, when it came to this, seeing the work that Seth and Becky put into their storyline to make it seem like it was believable was genuinely kind of shocking. Like, especially Becky. Seeing Becky argue with the fact that she has to lie to the people she loves, but also it's to help benefit her husband. Like that was a weird dilemma that she was dealing with that a lot of people probably never have to deal with in their life. Again, showing that mental aspect of wrestling and how it can really take a toll on you mentally. But yeah, a lot of the stuff about Seth Rollins' fake injury was pretty much revealed before WWE Unreal. Like, yeah, it was planned in advance. They're gonna use it to have a surprise cash-in on CM Punk at SummerSlam and all that stuff. But I think some of the questions that were still there lingering were answered with this. Like the fact that, did LA Knight know about the fake injury that's going to happen, or was he also played in that ring? And initially Seth didn't want to tell LA Knight, but Triple H is like, no, we should tell him, because if you were on the other side of that, you'd be pissed off. Shout out Triple H. He was right about that for sure. Like, the right move is to definitely tell LA Knight. Hell, I don't even know if the other members of the Vision knew that it was a fake injury. Maybe they thought it was a real injury too. When they saw Seth walking in Gorilla before going out at SummerSlam, that's when they realized, oh, it was all a work. So honestly, even with WWE Unreal, there's still some unanswered questions, but whatever. Yeah, so the few unanswered questions that we had about that injury and the cash-in were kind of answered during Unreal. It wasn't like a lot of groundbreaking stuff that they talked about in Unreal with the fake injury, but it was just kind of, it was fun to see that the stuff that went into it. Actually, while we're on the topic of LA Knight, one thing that this show did give a lot of context to was that hesitancy of WWE to give that push to LA Knight. I believe it was episode 3 or 4 of the show. They were going over the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. They revealed like the ending of that match was supposed to be LA Knight and Seth at the top of the ladder. LA Knight would knock off Seth. LA Knight would look like he's about to win, and then Seth would last minute pull him down, stomp him, and then win the championship. So it was supposed to be this like big holy shit moment for LA Knight, and then they were going to tear that away from him. But then live in the match, LA Knight did none of the things that they talked about. But stuff like that where LA Knight was not able to finish the match properly, or screwing up endings of matches. Not in a big way, like the ending was still the same, but like not what the producer talked about or how it was set up to be. If you rewind even more, think back to all the way to the Royal Rumble last year. LA Knight was catching a lot of flack for taking camera time and getting his spots in when Drew McIntyre was eliminated from the Royal Rumble, when it was supposed to be a holy shit moment for him, and LA Knight was kind of soaking up the whole spotlight during that time. And if you also remember the Jey Uso sign, we want LA Knight, not Jey Uso, and he tore that up, or he showed that and then got in trouble for that too, reportedly. Stuff like that gives a little bit of context to why WWE haven't pushed him all the way. I'm not saying that WWE shouldn't push him because of those things. I think wholeheartedly, 100%, LA Knight needs to get pushed. He should have been pushed a long time ago. He should have been Mr. Money in the Bank by now. It's been, 3 years since he's been, favored to win that match? He should be pushed by now. But I see the points and the places in time where WWE can point out evidence to saying this is why we haven't pushed you, or reasons to justify why they haven't pushed LA Knight, basically. Which in the grand scheme of an entire product, an entire year, they're not the biggest reasons. I think LA Knight should still get pushed. Now, I probably did miss a lot of other stuff that happened in Unreal, but those are kind of the big points that I really wanted to talk about. Like I said, WWE Unreal is not about watching for how they write storylines and how they make decisions and stuff like that. I believe it's all about watching for the wrestlers and connecting more with the people that are behind the characters in wrestling. Let me know what you guys thought of WWE Unreal. Even season 1, leave a comment. Tell me about your reactions to it. Or even if you never watched it and you made it this far, why you didn't watch it. And be sure to like the video, share it with all your other wrestling friends. Hell, even if they're not wrestling fans, share it with them, man. I need the views. Please, I need the views. But yeah, like I said, do leave a comment. I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts about WWE Unreal. I love having discussions in the comments with people, especially in the community. So that's the whole reason I make these videos. And with that, yeah, that's my thoughts on WWE Unreal. Peace out.